Welcome to Concrete Block, the podcast where we dive into the latest news and current events that shape our world. I'm your host, Walter, and we're glad you're joining us today. We've got a fascinating story to kick off our show, and it's all about the intricate web of international relations, business deals, and potential corruption. President Donald Trump is gearing up for a significant trip to the Gulf region, where he'll be meeting with leaders from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. On the surface, this trip appears to be focused on strengthening diplomatic ties and exploring new economic opportunities. However, as we dig deeper, it becomes clear that there are many layers to this story. Reports have emerged of a potential gift from the Qatari government to President Trump, valued at $400 million, in the form of an aircraft for temporary use as Air Force One. While Qatar's media attaché in Washington has described these reports as inaccurate, the situation raises important questions about conflicts of interest and foreign influence. Furthermore, we've learned that the UAE-based investment firm MGX, chaired by Tahnoun bin Zayed, has announced a $2 billion investment in the cryptocurrency exchange Binance through the Trump family-owned crypto company World Liberty Financial. This deal has sparked concerns about corruption, with some critics arguing that it's a mechanism for foreign entities to funnel money into the Trump family's pockets. It's essential to note that the White House and the Trump family have downplayed these concerns, stating that the president has no personal involvement in these deals and that they were in the works before his re-election. Nevertheless, the situation is complex, and many experts believe that it warrants closer scrutiny. As we navigate this complex landscape, it's crucial to consider multiple perspectives and evaluate the evidence objectively. We'll continue to follow this story and provide updates as more information becomes available. For now, let's take a step back and assess the broader implications of these developments. Are they indicative of a larger trend in international relations, or are they isolated incidents? How might these events impact the global economy, and what do they reveal about the inner workings of power and influence? We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block, folks. We're diving into the complex world of international politics now. Today, we're discussing a thought-provoking piece by Philip H. Gordon and Rebecca Lissner, published in Foreign Policy, about the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine. The authors suggest that President Trump's initial approach to resolving the crisis has failed, and it's time for him to consider alternative strategies. Now, let's break down the key points. Gordon and Lissner propose 4 potential steps the U.S. could take to increase pressure on Moscow and encourage a peaceful resolution. Firstly, they recommend a new drawdown package financed by already authorized funding to provide Ukraine with much-needed artillery and ammunition. Secondly, they suggest accelerating efforts to improve Ukrainian air defenses, such as providing a refurbished Patriot system from Israel. Thirdly, the authors propose seeking agreement with European allies to bolster Ukraine's long-term deterrence through training, weapons, and financing. And lastly, they recommend using frozen Russian assets in Europe to pay for Ukrainian defense and reconstruction. It's essential to acknowledge that these suggestions come from a place of expertise, as both Gordon and Lissner have served in the Biden-Harris administration. However, it's also crucial to consider multiple perspectives on this issue. Some might argue that increasing military aid to Ukraine could escalate the conflict, while others might see it as a necessary measure to counter Russian aggression. As we navigate these complex geopolitical dynamics, it's vital to remain informed and nuanced in our understanding. The situation in Ukraine is multifaceted, with various stakeholders and interests at play. As we move forward, it's crucial to prioritize diplomacy and strive for a peaceful resolution that respects the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all nations involved. Stay tuned for our final story of the day, right here on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. I'm your host, Walter. As we wrap up today's show, we're going to delve into a critical issue that's been unfolding in Gaza, where the blockade has led to a severe humanitarian crisis. The World Health Organization has released a report highlighting the devastating effects of food and aid shortages on the population. According to the WHO, nearly 500,000 people in Gaza are facing catastrophic hunger, with 3/4 of the population at emergency or catastrophic levels of food deprivation. The situation is dire, with 57 children reported to have died from malnutrition since the blockade began. The organization warns that if the situation persists, nearly 71,000 children under 5 will be acutely malnourished over the next 11 months. Pregnant and breastfeeding mothers are also at high risk of malnutrition, with almost 17,000 expected to require treatment for acute malnutrition in the coming months. The long-term impact of this crisis could have lasting effects on an entire generation, with stunted growth, impaired cognitive development, and poor health. The WHO is calling for immediate access to food and essential supplies, as well as an end to the aid blockade. They're also urging for the protection of healthcare and the release of all hostages, with a ceasefire leading to lasting peace. It's essential to acknowledge that this crisis has complex roots and multiple perspectives. We must consider the humanitarian principles of humanity, impartiality, independence, and neutrality in our analysis. The situation demands a nuanced understanding, recognizing the needs and concerns of all parties involved. As we conclude today's segment, it's crucial to remember that the people of Gaza are not just statistics. They're human beings deserving of dignity, hope, and access to basic necessities like food, water, and healthcare. We must strive for a balanced and informed discussion, acknowledging the complexities of this issue while prioritizing the well-being and safety of all individuals affected. That's all for today's Concrete Block. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay informed.